instrumental. I think we all enjoyed that concert very much. So a little round of applause. Please excuse my voice. Of all the days to get hoarse, I picked this day. But I want to thank the Board of Trustees of Vandercook College of Music for selecting me to receive this honor. My family has been dedicated to the music industry for 81 years. My father, Willie Berg, started the company in the late 30s, and I became involved in 1962. And now my son, Mike, has just been named president by the board of directors about a year ago. So it's 3 generations of our family have run this business, and we're dedicated to make quality accessories in the USA. It's a monumental day for all you graduates, and a culmination of hard work and dedication to reach this point in your lives. Success is if you leave the world a better place than you found it. You have chosen a career that will enable you to touch so many lives and continue the tradition of music. Music is power. Music unites. Music communicates. Music touches the soul and spirits of all of us that listen. I am sure as you move forth in your chosen career, that all our futures will be enriched because you will speak to the heart and stir the soul of the people you come in contact with, mostly your students. Your knowledge of musical instruments and voice will increase as you're able to pass this learning knowledge on to your students. You will gain these skills to help adapt your knowledge. Now, I got a joke to tell you. And then we'll go on to a few stories. I can't take total responsibility for this joke as I read it before in my travels, but I have rewritten parts. And I recently met, and here's the joke. I recently met a graduate of Vandercook School of Music, and they asked him what he was going to do in the future. He said, well, I want to be a teacher, I want to be a band director. But right now I'm just worrying about my graduation present. I said, well, who's going to buy you this graduation present? He said, my parents. So I said, what would you like for graduation? He said, I want a parrot. A parrot. So he and his parents went forth to the pet store where they met the proprietor. And they said to the proprietor, our son just graduated Vandercook School and he's going to be a band director. When he wants to buy a parrot, he said, oh, you're so lucky today. We just got some parrots from New York, and we got the parrots for you. Between the 3 parrots we have, you're going to pick one. So he takes them over to a cage, and there's a parrot. And he said, this parrot can whistle every tune that Charlie Parker, the saxophone player, has ever recorded. However, it's $5,000. Oh, the parents, stood back, took a guess. The students said, well, $5,000. So we have another parrot over here. And this parrot can whistle every tune that Harry James ever recorded, including the notes that aren't even on the page. So, but this parrot's $10,000. $10,000. And we have one more in the back room. Well, what does that parrot do? He said, we're trying to figure out exactly what that parrot does. However, the other 2 call him Maestro. in my life, I've come across a lot of people, and mostly dealing with employees, and I think this holds true for all of us. I always tell my employees there's 3 A's. If you live by 3 A's, you'll be a success. Attitude, attendance, and ability. If you got the first 2, you can teach ability to someone who has the right attitude and shows up every day to learn. So I feel that with your students, the time that you're going to put forth into these students is very important. If they got the right attitude, they have to have the right attitude, and you too, when you show up every day. You know, I'm 75 years old. My wife says, how do you get up every morning and go to work? I said, it's not work. I love what I'm doing. I enjoy what I'm doing. So it's not work. And that's, if you can get yourself in a position where you love what you're doing, and being in where you are today, you obviously are committed to music and love music, whether it's instrumental or voice. If you can pass that on to your students, you're going to make a lot of people happy. And I believe behind every successful person, there was someone that helped them and encouraged them to be successful. In my family, it was a great band leader by the name of Glenn Miller. Some of you weren't even born would ever heard of the name of Glenn Miller. But I think, being in music, you might have heard of Glenn Miller. He had a big band in the 40s and 50s, and he was like a rock star today. Because people would dance to his music, they would hear the band perform. And my dad would carry a chip bag and go to all the bands that were performing in Chicago and sell them reeds, valve oil, sticks, cymbals, whatever he could peddle in a gym bag. He was a starving musician, and we all know what that's like. And he was looking for a gig. And while he wasn't playing, he would go to these bands and sell supplies. Well, Glenn Miller took a liking to my dad, and he befriended him. And he said, why don't you make mutes for all the brass and blend the sound? This trumpet player's using this mute, this trumpet player, bone player's using another mute. Most of them didn't play in tune. He said, make a mute that can play in tune, and you'll have a business. So my dad went home, and he started to make mutes in his bedroom with my mother, and they lived with his parents after the Great Depression. Every family's had to live together. There was no money. And they would make the mutes, my mother would paint them, and my dad would pedal. And a business was born. Then one day, Glenn Miller was in town at the Shapery. I don't know if you ever even heard of the name Shapery. That was a pretty fancy club in Chicago. And he was a younger day. I got some. So he saw Glenn Miller that night at the Shapery. He said, I won't be seeing you any longer. I got drafted for the war. And Glenn Miller said, where's your draft papers? So I said, at home. Well, I'll wait here. The band's got a couple more sets. You go home, get your draft papers. My dad said, why, just go get your draft papers. So he goes home, gets his draft papers, comes back to the club, gives them to Glenn Miller. Glenn Miller folds them up, puts them in his suit pocket. And he says, now don't report for the draft. Well, what do you mean? We got to report for the draft. I got a telegram, I got to report. He says, don't report, I'll take care of it. You're going to stay home and make stone line music for all the armed forces bands all over the world. You get a shot. Well, my father came from a poor family. There was no money. My grandfather was a body and fender man. And he begged, borrowed, and stealed, and put together enough money to start a shop. Well, on the following Monday, he got a telegram. You stay home and make your product for the war effort. And a business was born because Glenn Miller saw something in my father that he felt he would help. So he was a big hero to our family, Mr. Miller. And my grandfather would make patterns for the original music because he was a body and fender and sheet metal man. And away the business started, and Mr. Miller, sure enough, sent orders in for all the armed forces bands, and now these bands would take these products all over the world. And they were like a built-in billboard for our company. And today we ship to 65 countries and have 3,000 music dealers in the United States. So when my family, my dad had made friends with so many band members, Count Basie, Duke Ellington, Harry James, Buddy Rich, it didn't matter, the list went on and on. And when these bands came to Chicago, my dad would bring them to the house for dinner. That's what kind of relationship we had. Well, one day we were having a school dance, and they said, well, hey, Berg, you're a musician, you play in a high school band, and your dad's in the music business, we're going to make you entertainment director, you get the band. I said, oh, okay. And every day after high school, I would drive to the shop and work for my dad. So I said, Dad, I need a band for the school dance. When is it? I'd write it down, give it to, okay, I'll take care of it. Well, my dad was the #1 procrastinator. You know, you had to go back to it over and over and over. Meanwhile, he was working behind the scenes, but he wouldn't let you know about it. So I said, Dad, we got to print up, no, weeks are going by, months. I said, we got to print up the advertisement about this gig. What band are we going to get? He said, I got your band. So who's the band? He said, Duke's going to play your gig. I said, Duke who? Duke what? Duke of Dixieland, Duke and the Five Guys, who's going to play? He said, Duke Ellington and his full orchestra. So we printed up these bids, we called them in those days. You hung them from the rearview mirror. That was like fuzzy dice. We hung the bids. So lo and behold, we start announcing this and telling people about it. And what happened? All of a sudden, the room we had wasn't big enough. All the parents were coming. Everybody in the neighborhood was coming. So we ended up renting the grand ballroom at the Sherry Hotel on Lakeshore Drive. Now here's a bunch of high school kids. And another thing I skipped in there, because I'm not really reading my notes. I said, Dad, how are we going to pay for Duke Ellington? But we don't have that kind of money. You know, we thought we'd have, 200-300 couples. He said, Duke said, he'll take whatever you got. So when we started selling tickets and they were like $5 a couple or something, we had pockets full of money, all kinds of money. And I'm walking around with a little strong box at the dance, so I got to pay you in cash. So he played and nobody would go home. They play a set, get off the set, and my dad said, towards the end of the evening, Duke wants to talk to you. And he's sitting over on the corner of the stage at the piano. I said, yes, Mr. Ellington. He said, what am I going to do? No one's leaving. I said, well, how about I announce you play one more set? He said, okay, we'll play one more set. We'll take a break and play one more set. So I get up there and I announce, everybody's clapping, and oh, no, you can't go home there and clap, and they want them to stay all night. So to make a long story short, he played another set. The dance was a huge success. And my dad said, Mr. Ellington wants us to come up to a suite afterwards. And I said, really? He said, oh yeah, Mr. Ellington. So my mother, my dad, and myself and my date went to his suite. Now, in the suite, he had a baby grand piano and a big bowl of fruit on the piano. He loved fruit. And he started playing and serenading us. I'm sitting on the couch with this girl. All I wanted to do was get out of there and make out with her. I didn't realize I'm sitting there with B have in your suit. He wore this big silky handkerchief. And what do you think happened 5 days later? 3 handkerchiefs show up to my home. He sent me 3 handkerchiefs, which I cherish today. So, as I get older, and I won't bore you much longer, as I get older, I find the only thing that goes faster is time. Time is a thief. Takes away your experiences about your own life and work. Your time is limited. So most important that you have the courage to follow your heart and intuition. Now you go forward to influence and encourage the lives of so many new music students. It is okay to make mistakes along the way. Make good music so we all can continue to enjoy the power of music. Thank you, and God bless you.